All right, I've been reading for about 4 years, and something you start to pick up when you're reading is that there really is no shortcuts. There's no speed reading, there's no skipping pages, there's no cheating, really. And despite the fact that there are no shortcuts, there are strategies that you could use to become a better reader. And for me, reading is so important because reading helps you develop your mind, and it does also help you become a better communicator. It helps you become a better reader, and it helps you become a better writer. And it also helps you become a better communicator in speaking as well. The first one would be no audiobooks or no digital shit. Why? Because if you've ever seen anyone read, they usually write down things that they like, or something that stood out to them, like a quote by Socrates or Plato, or Marcus Aurelius, or they highlight it, whatever. Why? Because to them it stood out, and when you have an audiobook, you really can't do that. And same applies to when you have a digital book. I don't like digital books because, say this is my phone, right? And I'm like this all day, right? And one, that's bad for your back, and two, it does fuck up a lot of your health, right? So, no digital stuff, no audiobook stuff. Second one would be quality over quantity, right? You could have a lot of books, but they're all full of shit. And what happens next, right? What do you use this knowledge for? You can't, because the books are not good, right? Epictetus once said that it's not that you read, it's what you read. Because the quality of the books you read develop your mind. They affect your mind and they help it grow. If you don't read good books, they will stunt your cognitive development. So again, quality over quantity. And comics do apply to this. Comics are considered good books because most of the time, comics have concepts that have happened in real life and are just spoken of in the form of a superhero or something. Like for me personally, I read a lot of Batman, and Batman has helped me, honestly, a lot, right? So, comics do apply to that as well. Because there's always something behind the mind of the author. And you get that from real life, especially with comics. And then the third one is read with sticky notes, not with pens. A lot of people like to destroy their books, but I don't think so. You have to read with sticky notes because when you read with sticky notes, one, you keep track of what you read, and two, if there is an author who communicates in a different way than you do, it's easy to read with sticky notes because you get to break down what they're talking about. So read with sticky notes. You could also write it for questions or thoughts or maybe a counter question you have for the author as well. And then just keep your book in good condition, because I see that a lot of people use their books for everything, which I don't critique very much, but don't screw up your book. Like, imagine if you're eating, because most times you eat with drinks and it spills on your book. The book is gone, right? You have to keep your book in good condition. Like, when I grow older, right, and I'll use right now as an example. Right now, a lot of books are being filtered because some guy said, we don't want to hear this. We want to hear what we already believe. So, you have to keep your books in good condition, because if you have, say, a cousin, a niece, a nephew who wants to read one of your books in the future, then you have to keep it in good condition to give it to them. Like I would give them Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. So yeah, just keep your books in good condition and just take care of your stuff. Then the other one is, again, don't eat while you're reading, because if food drops on it, you could screw it up. Like say you're eating pasta, right, with tomato sauce and it drops on the paper. Exactly, right? You don't want that to happen. Sixth one is stop watching the news. That does not mean be an idiot. That does not mean be an uninformed person. But Truman said, the only thing new in the world is the history you didn't know, or the history you don't know, because history repeats itself. Right, and I'll read it again if it was a tongue twister the first time. The only thing new in the world is the history you don't know. Because again, history repeats itself. The things that are happening today, I don't agree with them. Many of you don't agree with them. And the reason why we gotta stop watching the news is because a lot of the news have a lot of biases that can sometimes alter what the story actually is and hide a bit of the truth. So, if you read Dostoevsky, if you read Plato, if you read Marcus Aurelius, you're going to realize that things that happen now have happened many times over again, and documentations of the things that are happening now have already been documented. You just got to find them, right? So, what you're going to want to do is study history and psychology, right? And again, psychology of the dark aspects of the human soul is in Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground. Very, very interesting book. The seventh one is reread your books, because well, actually, I forgot who said this, but we never step in the same river twice. I think it was no, it doesn't come to mind. But we never step in the same river twice. So when I go through posts, right, I always find people constantly saying that never read the same book twice because the ending is the same. I think that's complete bullshit. Because the book may be the same, but we are always growing, we're always developing, and our minds are always changing. Like when you read something when you're younger, you don't fully understand it. But if you reread it again when you're older, it makes a lot more sense. Why is that? Because your mind starts to perceive things differently. So endings to books will appear as if they have changed, because you will think of it differently. So do reread your books. The eighth one is quit books that are just bad, right? You don't want to read shitty books. And in fact, the older you get, the less time you have for bullshit and the less tolerance you have for bullshit. So, for me, it's 100 pages minus your age. We were reading a book for a class I had. The book was called Kindred. Not that the book was bad, I just found it boring. And I read like 84 pages. And I honestly read a bit more than I should have. Because I got bored long before 80-something pages. But if you don't like what you're reading, toss it. Because you don't have time for bullshit. Time goes on. Find something better to read. Good books aren't hard. For number 9, good books aren't hard. And as Epictetus said, if Chrysippus was a better writer, you'd have less to brag about. He said that to his student after his student told him that he had just finished reading the rough works of Chrysippus, because Chrysippus supposedly was a shitty writer according to the student. And good books are not bad, because the author should be able to communicate his ideas well, right, and not give you such a hard time reading. Now, an example that I will give you where this does not really apply is when you are reading a good writer, but their form of communication is simply different than yours. Dostoevsky writes in sarcasm and irony, Well, I'm not a very sarcastic person, and I don't speak in irony because I am very direct. I'm very truthful. I will tell you something without filter. So again, if the book is bad, and if it wasn't written well, drop it. But if the book was written in a different way of communication than what you're used to, that's a different thing. And a side note, long books justify themselves. So if a book you're reading is bad, and if it's running out of space, right, there's not many pages left, and it's like you're completely losing your mind because you have no idea what you're reading because the writer did such a horrible job, then drop it. Because long books justify themselves, and if they don't, then the book was just an art of shit. Now, the 10th one would be, ask other people what book has changed your life. And as Emerson said, if we encounter a man of rare intellect, we should ask him what books he reads. Because if you ask someone the book that changed their life and they recommend it to you, that book may also change your life and you will learn something from that book. So ask that question, because that's one of the most important questions you can ask as a reader. What book has changed your life? 11th would be read for wisdom. Now, I say personally that if one does not read for wisdom, they're not reading at all. Because most books, a lot of books, are covered in philosophy, are covered in life lessons, and if you just read for facts, like news articles, right, then you're not reading for wisdom. You're not reading for something that you'll use in the future. You're only reading something that will work right now. And again, that doesn't mean be an idiot or be uninformed, but don't treat them like, if you're not reading for wisdom, don't treat what you're reading with much value. Because one must read to learn wisdom. Because wisdom, you can use it anywhere. You will use it across your entire life. So again, for one to read, one must read for wisdom. 12th is read everything by authors you love. I'm falling in love with Dostoevsky because a lot of his concepts I agree with. I agree with everything he says about the dark aspects of the human soul. A lot of people say we were created perfectly in the image of our Creator. Yes, I believe so as well. But everyone also believes they're perfect, which is not true. No one is perfect, everyone is flawed. There is always a dark aspect to the human soul because it always has its contradictions, which is what Dostoevsky talks about. And I really love it because when you are an existentialist or an overthinker, you tend to pick these things up. And I really love that he's writing about it, and he communicates it in a way that I'm not used to, but when you get to grasp what he's talking about, you're just going to fall in love with it. And when you truly understand what he wants to communicate in the tone he's communicating it in, it's like you're in another world. So, again, read everything by authors you love, and my next book will probably be White Nights, because I've read a lot of good things about it, and I've heard a lot of good things about it as well. And I've read a little sample of it, and I say it's worth buying. The one I would read after that would probably be Crime and Punishment, because I've heard it's a masterclass or a masterpiece, literally, by basically everyone, and by reading a few pages of it, I do think it's really good as well. 13 would be buy the book immediately. Don't wait for it to get a discount. Don't wait for it to run out of stock. Just buy it. Because it will run out of stock eventually. And if there's a book that you've been struggling to find and you finally find it, doesn't matter what the price is, buy it. Because you're going to make that money back eventually. 14 would be Speed reading is a scam because you can't cheat your way through something that takes a long time to go through. 15 would be read like a spy. And as Seneca said, read like a spy in an enemy's camp. Read things by people who you don't agree with. And I don't read it to learn actually I do. I do read it to learn from other perspectives because you need to understand other perspectives to get closer to truth. I read those books as a discipline. There's a lot of books I don't like. There's a lot of people I disagree with. There's a lot of idiots in the world too. But you have to read people you don't agree with because you have to discipline your mind into reading through things you don't like because it's a form of training your mind to it's a form of resistance to read things that you don't like or things that you find completely absurd or complete bullshit. And then go to bookstores because going to bookstores is like it's like a discovery engine, or it's like a place of opportunities. And something I say is that opportunities are blessings, and if you take the opportunity, it may grant you things that you would have never found anywhere else. 17 would be pay it forward, meaning that you can never pay back someone for a book, but you can pay it forward. Like, tell people about good books, just like I tell you about Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. And a good warning, he writes very differently than what we are used to, right? And this guy writes with, really without spaces. This guy writes paragraph-long pages, so that's a fair warning, but the book is very good. And if you are good at reading irony and sarcasm, unlike me, this will be a very entertaining book for you, and also very informative as well. And something I'll want to leave this off by is, if you're just getting into reading, and you really have not read much, and you don't fully grasp what reading is for, as I said, reading is to develop your mind, and it will help you become a better communicator as well. And to me, reading is a great conversation. Like, if you're reading a book by Plato, if you're reading the Bible, if you're reading Dostoevsky, if you're reading Nietzsche, right? The reason why I put sticky notes, not only to keep track of what you read and stuff, but to write down comments, to leave counter questions, as I said, right? Reading is the great conversation. You learn from what you read because the author is writing it in a way that he's speaking to you. And in the books that I'm writing, I do try to make it sound as if I'm speaking directly to you. So that's been it. I hope you found something that you'll find useful, and if there are any other reading strategies that you have, comment them down below, and see you next time.